Welcome back to BRL Knowledge Center. Now, in this session, we'll talk about what is procedural programming approach. So, the name itself is having a procedural. That means the programming language is going to be written based on the procedure, like top to down approach and predefined functions. So, procedural programming language is a type of computer coding language that helps a computer to perform some tasks. So this is one of the language programmers are going to be used very frequently. So this procedural code instructs a computer, right, to complete a task using some steps. That's what a procedure step by step. Okay. When you look at this diagram, look at this diagram. This is my main program, right? And the main program is having some global data, right? Every global data is going to be having, right, some reference in one of inside function like function 1, function 2, function 3, function 4. My main program basically having this function 1, function 2, function 4. Every function is having some global data here. This global data, right, using in here, right? Here, this function is having reference of this and this. This function is having reference this and this. This function is this and this, something like that. So this is something the main program which is going to start executing. From here, it is going to start executing function 1 by taking this global data, right? Coming here, which executes the global data first, whatever you are defining it, and then it start calling the global data inside of my function. So that's why I'm saying this is a top-down approach. Literally, when I say the example of this procedural programming language, I can say that example is basic and Fortran, Pascal, and C. These are going to start program from the main program. If you look at the C language, we have a hash include stdio.h and then void main. From there, you're going to declare your global data, and then you are going to define your sub procedural function, right? It's a top-down approach, right? So that means dividing and subdividing the procedure into sequence of commands. So you break down the commands and get further through the sequence. As instructions become more specific. Okay. So when you talk about this definition here, in this case, so procedural programming, right? Procedural programming language, right, is a type of programming language. Is a type of computer coding language that helps to perform tasks. Okay, so procedural programming approach instructs a computer. That means it instructs computer, right, to complete a task using logical steps from top to down. So using, right, top-down approach, using top-down approach, it separates the data and procedures as like above into different entities. If you look at here, this is separating separate entities of your program. This is the main program, this is global data section, this is the functions, you are dividing it. Okay. So for example, basic Fortran C, right? These are procedural programming approaches. The features of this procedural programming approaches, one thing is, as I mentioned, top-down approach, right? That means, right, this approach is a way of dividing and subdividing, if required, the procedure into sequence of commands. So as you break down the commands and get further through the sequence, right? So with this breakdown commands, right, you will get further through the sequence the instructions become more specific in this case. Okay. And second feature was predefined functions. Sometimes developers code, right, new instructions and functions into their program. You may use common technology commands and functions, right? So developers identify them by name and they are generally part of larger programming libraries. Okay. So another thing was parameter passing. Okay. And parameters are the data values that each sequential functions transfer from one to other, right? As I mentioned in the diagram, the global variables, right? So global variables are the opposite of local variables, right? Local variables is nothing but defining inside a procedure. Global variables are defined outside a function or procedure. Although local variables have a limited scope of one subprogram, global variable piece of data is visible in all subprograms or subfunctions, right? So with this top-down approach, this is going to execute your program from main to sub or divided programs sequential the help of sequential steps. Okay, so with this, I think you will achieve some kind of advantages, right? If you look at advantages, one thing is versatility, versatility, versatility. That means developers can use procedural programming language for most general programming users, which is why it's often one of the first language by learn. So this is suitable and easy to use various basic programming language, which is helpful for a new developer. It is having versatility syntax. Okay, so developers can use procedural programming language, right? For most general programming uses. Okay, this language is suitable. This language is suitable for, right, any developer, for easy to use for various basic programming projects. Second thing is simplicity of use. Simplicity of use. So procedural functions are easy to understand, making it good, right, starting point when learning to code. The simplicity of the language means it's also an excellent option for developers when they have programming projects that are required to finish quickly, right? So I can say the simplicity of the language means it's also an excellent option for developers when they have programming projects. They are required to finish quickly. And next one is easy accessibility. Easy accessibility. Easy accessibility. So many use procedural languages, meaning there are a lot of learning and educational resources available for developers. So there are courses, training literatures, and tutorials and subject. Many more professionals learn procedural programming through workplace trainings, right? So, and coming to this last one is reusability. That means developers have multiple uses for procedural language and can create variety of commands for variety of conditions. Once they write procedural code, they can reuse part of the code. Like in this case, I've written, right, four functions. I can call a third and fourth functions instead of one function or second function. And here you can use this global data. I can use it here, function two and also function one, right? So this global data, I can use it here, function two and function three. Reusing of this into different procedures. Okay, that's where the reusability. So easy accessibility means So many use procedural languages, meaning there are a lot of learning and educational resource availability to developers. And reusability means, again, I said, developers, right, have multiple uses of or multiple uses for procedural languages and can create variety of commands for a variety of condition, variety of conditions. Once they write procedural code, they can reuse part of the code. Once they write code, they can reuse parts of the code at different points throughout same project without copying manually. So these are the advantages with this procedural programming language. Okay, so procedural programming language is a type of computer coding language which helps to perform tasks. It instructs computer to complete a task using logical steps. Using a top-down approach, it separates the data and processes into different entities. This is like this. And with this, we have advantages of versatility, simplicity, easy accessibility, reusability. Okay, so I hope you are clear about what is this procedural programming language. So the name itself saying that it is going to execute top-down approach. That means it follows top-down approach wherein you directly, right, execute from main program to sub or subdivided programs, right? And anyway, we are having this many benefits. So with this, right, you will be extending this usage of procedural programming, right, for the complex programs. Okay, let's see what is an object-oriented programming approach, because this is the first programming language introduced before we see OOPS and other oriented based programming languages. This is almost 1960-72 era. People supposed to use these programming languages, Basic and Fortran and C, other languages. Now we'll see like what object-oriented programming approach in the next session, and then how it derived into our .NET. Okay. Thanks for listening to this video, and please subscribe this channel for more videos.